China is an extraordinary presence within the global environment, and historically over thousands of years has been like that. They're a force not just in research terms, but also in terms of the creative economy, which is a particular interest for us, but also diplomatic initiatives. The Chinese themselves are very interested in the ways in which they might convey their own culture and history to Western audiences, and vice versa. The sorts of areas we're mutually exploring with Chinese colleagues are issues around the consequences of digital technologies for intellectual property and copyright, and the business models that follow that for commercial creative practice. We're also exploring the functions of creative clusters, and there is a lot of interest in China about how we might develop that kind of methodology for Chinese circumstances. There is also the opportunity to facilitate contact in the creative communities. We fund a big project with Middlesex University, for example, on dance.
Some years ago, I met someone from the Beijing Dance Academy who knew about my research centre and was very interested to develop the research. We then applied to the AHRC for an International Research Workshops Award, and we then had a series of 3 projects, one in Beijing, one in Taipei, and one in London. One strand is about choreographers making new work, new short works, and they're told that this is a research process. At the same time, a group of academics is observing them and holding their own seminars and discussing both the processes and practices of the artist. There's a dance called Mask, which is based on a kind of traditional ritual from Western China. And indeed, the choreographer took the students who were going to perform there to watch the ritual in Western China, a region very close to Tibet, and incorporated some of those things into a dance. Understanding is often communicated through the body. So one of the things we want to look at next is where is the center of gravity as the dancer is dancing?
You know, after a very rapid economic development in China, I think there are very, very big part or important part of the Chinese dream is culture, is arts. So it's like a big challenge, but it's also a very big chance for the development of creative industry in China now.
Of course, we think that theatre and dance are enormously valuable vehicles for expression and exchange because we're sort of inside them. But in fact, beyond that, they're also a way of impacting on the economic activities of the countries. That kind of understanding leads on to other sorts of economic activity, of course. But the Chinese have also recognized that the cultural area is very significant economically, partly because it involves SMEs, small and medium enterprises. So every arts company, and even an individual sole trader, so to speak, as an artist, those people are very active in a way that China wants to understand.
How do we bring China to the UK, and how do we take the UK to China? The recent Ming Exhibition that we've supported the research for at the British Museum, that's the kind of thing we are also interested in.
Most of the things in the exhibition have never been seen in Britain before. A great number of things excavated in China very recently.
Every single detail of this exhibition has been researched, and we want people to leave the exhibition with the idea that China was truly internationally engaged well before the arrival of the Europeans in the 16th century. I've been to China about 3 times each year during the project, and this has allowed us to develop relationships with the 10 different museums that we're working with in China. This will be visited by so many scholars from around the world. It really is a fantastic showcase of how a museum and a university can work together to deliver some original research with a great public outcome.
I had the good fortune to take a Chinese delegation to the opening night, and they were knocked sideways by it because there's nothing of this sort in China.
The Research Council's office in China was set up in September 2007. We just celebrated the 7th anniversary, actually. For us, our main role is to facilitate the dialogues between the UK research councils and our partner agencies in China. China's research system is quite complex, and also it is evolving So say, for example, there is increasing interest in creative economy. So for us to understand what is going on and what researchers need, and to bring partners together to support the highest quality of research, which also have the highest impact on both societies, is also quite a challenge for us. But we do see them as exciting challenges as well.
So here we have Chiang Kai-shek, the Generalissimo, President of China.
That remarkable historian of China at Bristol, Robert Vickers, has over the many years been collecting historical photographs from China, particularly from the so-called treaty ports up and down the east coast of China, which is where the British had a trading presence through the 19th century, places like Hong Kong right up to Shanghai. And there is enormous curiosity about these things in China because, of course, one consequence of the Cultural Revolution was a lot of this kind of domestic archive was lost. And it's a way in which we can really give back to China a little of its own history.
Focus and China's 20th century is a century of foreign invasions, civil wars, and then the Great Cultural Revolution in the late 1960s, when an awful lot of China's cultural heritage was destroyed in this left-wing frenzy. And individuals and families, to protect themselves, quite often destroyed all records of their past. So there are nowhere near as many private family albums. Lots of libraries were smashed up and so on. So these records held overseas are much more important than they would otherwise be.
The relationship between the West, and particularly the UK, and East Asian countries like China, those relationships are going to be critical for the future. For young people, it's going to be critical for them to have an international education. They're going to have to understand how to talk to others from all over the globe. So we hope, in a small way, we're contributing to that.
The Chinese have the same ambitions and the same sense that their universities are too closed, and they want to unlock creativity as well. So here's a way perhaps in which we can network people together, but also exchange ideas about methods and processes.
People overseas bring different perspectives, different ways of looking at things, as well as their own expertise and skills. So it would be an opportunity we'd spurn at our peril, I think.